Hey guys, it's me, Mr. Plazik. I know that you're super excited right now because you're probably been told that, hey, you're going to do a rat dissection. And rat dissection's our first major dissection that we do in Intro to Human Anatomy and Physiology. And it's a super, super cool dissection that we do because we're going to learn about the basic organs of the body and then kind of assign those to those various organ systems that we've been talking about in Chapter 1. But some things to keep in mind is you have a scalpel. Scalpels are sharp. When you hold a scalpel, you're going to kind of hold it like this, okay, right behind the blade, not on the blade, but behind the blade is how you're going to hold it. Try to cut away from you. So when you do your cuts, you're going to try to cut away from yourself. It's one of the recommendations that I do have. If you do cut yourself or anything like that, make sure that you alert your teacher and things like that. We'll get that wound cleaned out, and we'll get a Band-Aid for you as well. So don't hide cuts or anything like that if you do make an error or something like that. But you should be good by holding that scalpel this particular way right here when you make your cuts. Like I said, make your cuts away from you. That tends to be a little bit more successful. You also have a pair of scissors. They're just going to be used standard scissors that you're going to use for cutting. Then you have some dissection pins that you're going to use to help identify the structures that you have to identify for this lab. So let's take a look at the rat. All right, so this is the rat that we have here, and you can see I already have the rat tied down. So that's the first thing you want to do is you want to get some twine, and you want to tie that rat down. We're going to open up the ventral body cavity is what we're going to do. So we learned in class you have the ventral body cavity, you have the dorsal body cavity. We're going to open up the ventral body cavity, but we don't want to make a very deep incision here. We're just going to remove the skin from the ventral body cavity is what we're going to do. So I'm just going to take my scalpel. I'm going to make a small incision. Okay, I'm going to make a small incision, and I'm just going into the skin. That's what I want to kind of do is just go into the skin. Now that I've made my way into this skin, I can peel this skin back, and I'm going to see some white tissue that's in there. It's called areolar tissue. It's one of the most widely distributed connective tissues in our body. So this is the very first step that we have, is we're going to just kind of open up the skin on this ventral body cavity that's right here. You can see, if you look real closely, you can see that there's that areolar tissue, that spider web tissue. You know you're doing good with skinning your rat when you see that areolar tissue, and you can just kind of take your knife, or your scalpel, I'm sorry, and you're just going to make it a nice, easy incision across that areolar tissue that you have. All right, we're going to go all the way up here. This is where we're going to go as well. And we're going to come down here, just like this, opening up that areolar tissue on the rat. All right. So I'm going to show you this. You're gonna do this whole thing. You're going to come all the way across this way. You're going to come all the way up here. Okay, you're going to come up the arms a little bit, you're going to come down here to the legs a little bit, and then you're going to open it up. So I'm going to show you in just a few seconds what my rat looks like when I've completed the actual skinning of the rat and opening up the ventral body cavity. All right, so now you can see that I have my rat. The rat has been skinned. I removed that skin from the rat. What you're going to want to do now is take a picture, okay, and you're going to upload that picture to Schoology. For us to be able to take a look at and grade, just to make sure that you did this correctly. Now you're going to make a cut, and you're going to cut from the pubic region. So you're going to make an incision from this pubic region down here, all the way up to the bottom of the rib cage is what you're going to do. All right. Remember, we're dissecting. Okay, we're dissecting the rat. We're not mutilating the rat. Dissection means to separate. Okay, mutilate means to destroy. We're dissecting the rat. We're not mutilating the rat. Is what we are not doing. So you're just going to make a small incision down here in this pubic region down here. Okay, you're not going to go too deep. Okay, is what you're not going to do. All right, so I have my small incision started. I'm not going too deep. Okay, I'm going to insert my scissors and I'm going to cut upward is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make this vertical cut right here. I'm going to cut in an upward like fashion this way. That's all that I'm going to do. And I'm not destroying the underlying organs. That's a big key. That's what I don't want to do, is to destroy those underlying organs that are there. Okay, and then once I get to that rib cage, I'm going to come lateral. There's going to be some juices that are going to come out, and that's okay as well. I'm just going to make an incision this way. I'm going to make an incision the other way with my scissors, make a cut the other way. is what I'm going to do. And then even down here in this pubic region, I can make a little cut sideways as well to kind of open this region up. Notice I've not destroyed any of these internal organs in here whatsoever. It looks nice and clean. That's what I want it to look like. All right, there's going to be some fluid in there, and that's okay. You can drain that fluid if you feel like there's too much fluid. But you're going to open this cavity up right here. This is the abdominal pelvic cavity that we have here. This is the one cavity in your body that's not protected by bone. Okay, so this doesn't have a lot of bone protection that's associated with it. So a lot of times when you get injured in this region, like when you wear like a seatbelt or something, this is a region that gets injured a lot of times because it's not protected by bone whatsoever. All right, you have some key organs that you're going to have to identify in this region. Okay, remember, when you identify organs, all you're doing is you're taking your pin and you're placing it in that particular region. Like I know that this is the liver. So I'd place this on here, okay? I would have a little piece of tape, okay, that's on this, and it would say liver that's associated with it. All right, so you're gonna identify some of these key organs that are in the abdominal pelvic cavity, okay? So in part 2, I have a list of organs that you have to identify, okay? So part 1 was just skinning the rat, is what you had to do. Part 2 is going to be identifying these key organs in this abdominal pelvic cavity is what you have to do. Okay, so once you get done with part 2, you'll take a picture, okay, of those key organs that you have to identify in this abdominal pelvic cavity. All right, then in part 3, you're going to move up to the thoracic cavity. Now, what separates the abdominal pelvic cavity from the thoracic cavity is you're going to see there's a muscle that's hanging out right here. There's a muscle that's hanging out right here. It's called the diaphragm, okay? It's a muscle that aids in breathing. This is a little bit more difficult to get into the thoracic cavity. You have to cut up the sternum. So I'm just going to cut up here with scissors all the way up the sternum, okay? All the way up the sternum. That's right here. And I'm then going to open that up, all right? And then I'm going to open that up really, really good. All right, and you can see I have the diaphragm. You can see right here is the diaphragm that I was talking about. You can see that muscle that's right there. That's the diaphragm. And then you have some organs that you have to identify in this upper thoracic cavity. Okay, you have some organs you have to identify in this upper thoracic cavity. All right, so this would be part 3 of the lab, in which you're going to identify these organs of the thoracic cavity. Okay, as well as you have some organs and structures that are up here in the neck, mainly the trachea and the esophagus, okay? If you can find the trachea, that's super cool. I want you to identify the trachea. If you cut that trachea and you look directly behind that trachea, you're going to see the esophagus as well. So this lab has 3 separate grades that are associated with it. One you're getting for skinning the rat, okay? The second grade that you're getting is for identifying those organs of the abdominal pelvic cavity. The third thing that you're going to do is identify those organs of the thoracic cavity, as well as those organs and structures associated with the neck, mainly the trachea and the esophagus, and that neck region is what you're going to identify on the rat. Make sure you're taking good quality pictures so that I can see what you're identifying is correct. Your teacher is going to direct you each day where to put the rats at. You're going to put them in a Ziploc bag. And you're going to put your name on that Ziploc bag, and we'll store them in the refrigerator. Make sure that you're observing lab safety protocol. You have goggles on. You have your gloves on at all times. Make sure that you're not touching your mouth, your eyes, those types of things as well. Make sure that you're just being clean. Make sure when you clean up, you wipe down your tables real nice. Make sure that you get that hand sanitizer on your hands too when you are done. That is the rat dissection. That is the rat dissection that you are going to do and identify those key structures. So I hope you guys have a good time. This should take around 2 to 3 days to get through. So this lab should take around 2 to 3 days for you to get through.